All right. How are you guys doing tonight, by the way?
So far, so good.
Awesome. Thanks for staying up late for this. Uh, Drew, I know it's like 10 your time right now or almost.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate it very, very
That was
much.
not what I was looking for. I clicked the wrong button.
The wrong button. Oh, no. So he's going to rate us over, then join us, I think, is how he's
I
planning on
think
doing
that's
this.
how he said that, yeah.
Yeah.
I know he's been plugging it all night.
Yeah, which is really awesome. So who came up with the whole, like, oh my gosh, he's showing the picture again of me as Anya. Seriously.
You're welcome for that, by the way.
Did you make that, Drew?
I made all three of those.
Oh, really?
Me, him, and you.
Why?
Because I was able to do it on the quick.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Paul, you're welcome to bring up Wingfeather Saga, like sort of at the end. I'll just sort of say any last things we want to talk about,
Sure.
or mention, or any other stories. And if we're like just like in the middle of everything, and we're having a good time, we want to keep going, that's fine. I'm just like I'd like everyone to commit to at least an hour of this before you're like, peace out. I can't take this anymore. It's too.
Be right back, okay?
I have to
That's
get one where
just
it's
great.
like, I gotta go. Bye.
You can do them all, Paul. I was just being silly.
Get out!
Hey, Stacy. Nice seeing you. We're waiting just a little bit here to start until Dallas comes over. I know he's about to raid. He started a raid. There he goes. I think he went. Now he's showing us. Now we're waiting for him to join us,
The main man
and
himself.
then we'll get going. Raid ahoy! My name is Roy. Why are you
Yes,
starting
it
this
is.
off on such a sour note, Geek Devotions? Get in here.
Technically, I just hit raid because that's the
Hey,
easiest way I
Ashley.
knew how to do this.
Thank you for the follow, Apple Dance. It's been nice communicating with you a little bit in the Geek Devotions raid. I'm so glad. Thank you for becoming a rewinder. Even though technically this is a culture box thing, it's not just about Retro Rewind Pod. My name is not Roy.
Yeah, it is.
See what you guys started.
Roy.
You misspelled your name in that red and white box there.
I didn't. PaulJPowers.com.
I even named your Anya as Anya Roy on the save file.
Seriously.
Yeah,
That just
seriously.
says I get something to drink. Okay, no worries, Geek Devotions. But welcome all. Thank you for everyone who came over with the raid. Thank you, Cellcast, for raiding. Thank you, Geek Devotions, for raiding. Really appreciate you all. In case you're
Very
unfamiliar,
nice to see you all again.
I'll just do a brief introductions. My name is Francisco. Me and my friend Paul down there host the Retro Rewind podcast, which you can check out at retrorewindpodcast.com. We review movies and games that are 15 years or older. And then to my left is Drew Dodgen from the Cellcast. Drew, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
We review animated movies and TV shows, and every once in a while, I'll actually post something about Kingdom Hearts.
Ooh, every once in a while.
I'm saying that as I've not actually posted any Kingdom Hearts stuff since October,
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
but I am bringing that back very soon.
Okay, nice. Very cool. Rosie says hi to Paul and Drew, and it's not.
Yes, it is, Roy.
It's Francisco.
I'm surprised you have comments there.
Team Womp for life, by the way.
Oh my gosh, I see
There
the
you go.
shirt. Yay for Kingdom Hearts content, indeed. Yes.
And
I
I'm
just hope no
probably
Dallas
just for
made you
fun,
do it.
just for fun stuff. I'm probably gonna move all the Kingdom Hearts stuff to a separate RSS feed, so you don't
Okay,
have
cool.
to sift through the Cellcast stuff to find it.
Yeah. Do you find that? I don't think it's that hard to do stuff like that, to sift through. I
No,
guess
but
it
I
depends on
mean,
how you're-
once it starts getting major,
Nothing.
it would be easier just to have it organized, I think, into one feed.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Ashley. Thank you for not being willing to not calling me any of those names.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I
I'm
guess-
still gonna call you Roy.
I think that makes sense though. That to just have from organization. That sounds awesome.
Also, I'm gonna be making another RSS feed for just the animated series stuff. So if you only want to hear us talk about the shows, that'll be in its own separate feed too.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
But it's not coming out of the main big episodes. So I'll
Okay,
just
so you're
separate
leaving
that
it
out.
baked in there.
It'll
Nice.
still be in the big episodes, but it's like if you only want to hear that stuff, I'll
Yeah.
put it in a separate feed
Yeah.
for you.
Good.
Oh, that's
'Cause I
awesome
like
that
it in
you're
the name.
off. You're off for a bit, Rosie. Yeah, yay for having some time off. That's awesome.
I hope the hater bots raid, because that would be fun to see all
That
those
would be-
comments in your video.
Yeah, just see all their comments in here. Yeah,
Oh,
that'd be
yeah.
so much fun.
Yeah.
Because haters gonna hate.
Oh my word. Wait till you turn off the camera, Night Roy.
Bum bum bum.
Are you leaving though, Dale? If so, we absolutely pray for you. We're probably not going to have I don't know how much chat interaction we're going to have. This is the first time we're doing this. For those that are like, what is this? Well, it's...
We don't know yet either.
We don't know yet. This is the first time we're doing it. Dallas sort of piloted it last week on Geek Devotions, where him, Drew, and John from...
I should
remember?
know. should know, I was there.
Cross-examine, cross-forge.
Part of the culture
something?
box?
No, he
No.
wasn't in Culture Box. He just brought in some people, and I happened to be there.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, there he is.
So it wasn't a real culture box.
Nice.
So John was from Random Encounters.
Random
Random
encounter.
encounters.
Except
That's who it
you
was.
misspelled Roy by spelling Dallas.
Oh my gosh. Seriously? Is this what it's going to... Okay, fine, guys. Welcome, everyone, to Culture Box Conversations. We're still sort of figuring out what this is exactly, but we're all members of the Culture Box. Me and Paul just introduced ourselves a little bit ago. Drew shared about the Cellcast. Dallas, for those that didn't come over with you from Geek Devotions, why don't you tell us a little bit about Geek Devotions? And we can take off my image of me and Anya. Confused
I need
people.
to do one of those with Paul. That way, all four of us have one.
My word.
Hey, I'm Dallas with Geek Devotions. We're the show for devoted geeks who are devoted, letting people know they're loved. We do that through Geek Culture, and we do it through Friday devotionals that we put out on YouTube, where we take something from Geek Culture, and we just create devotionals. So designed to let people know love and cared for. Then we got several podcasts hitting different elements of geek culture, from book lovers to anime lovers to video game lovers to terrible movie lovers or haters, depending on who you are. So.
Yeah.
And then we have a lot of articles also. We have some great articles coming out for my team.
Fantastic. So what we're going to do tonight is hopefully an ongoing conversation that we have. We're going to try to have these once a month, roughly. But we're going to look at items in the news that are in the areas of story, comedy, and geekery, because that's where our shows sort of go. Those are the sectors for our shows, if you might say. And we're going to talk about news stories that relate to those and give you our opinion on them from a Christian worldview. So to kick things off, this is an article. I forget who found this of the several of us, but recently Variety wrote that Indiana Jones TV series eyed for Disney Plus. So I'll just read a little bit of this. The Mouse House and Lucasfilms has specifically been bringing up the possibility of a streaming show set in the world of the globe-trotting archaeologists in General Means, with writers of late sources say. They are still looking for a writer to take on the project, thus no plot details are available, given that it is unknown if the series would serve as a prequel or a spin-off of the film franchise.
But
or
I've
if it
seen
would
that series.
tie
Young
into
Indiana
the
Jones.
upcoming 5th Indiana Jones film, similar to how Disney has tied in the Marvel shows on Disney Plus into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yes, they do talk about Young Indiana Jones here earlier, which was in 1992 to 93, which we talked about. But
Which is okay sometimes.
yeah, which is okay sometimes.
So
for
they
sure.
don't know if it's animated or live action. They don't know any of that kind of stuff yet.
No,
right?
this is
Okay.
just. It sounds like it's just in development, but I read this, and especially after Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, that like we jokingly call a student film or a fan film, and me and Paul actually, as part of our podcast, have watched every single one of Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, and I feel like this character needs to just they need a sunset. Let's have the awesome 3 movies that there were, and just leave these stories with this character alone, as opposed to trying to almost resuscitate a person that's on a do not resuscitate list. That's how it sort of feels with this character. But
Okay, but
Francisco,
you're wrong.
as a fan, as
Yeah.
I understand, as a fan,
yeah, let's talk about this.
you,
Yeah, how
you
feel
are
about
just
this, Joe?
wanting you're ready to let things rest and let it be done,
Yes.
disregarding the fact that for Disney and Lucasfilm and everyone else knows that is leaving money on the table.
Okay. There,
Well-
I have a rebuttal to that point, but that's
I mean, don't
that's
get me
totally
wrong.
fair.
Do not get me
Yeah.
wrong. I would prefer them just not touch it myself, or at least if you're going to do it, reboot it maybe in a different way or just something else in that universe. But a full-on, I understand why Disney wants to make something in this franchise because it's the second biggest franchise out of Lucasfilm, and they've just done such a good job with Star Wars.
Right.
Right. Exactly. Jackie or Chris, would you like to take over and talk about
We're
what
just
your
jamming
thoughts
to your
are?
music, man.
I get in sync with y'all.
Oh my gosh, Dallas, what do you think of? Is this the right move for Disney to
I think
continue
that-
on with this character, or what's your take on that?
It's difficult. We're long past the age of books, and that's the problem. Is they're coming at this from a book mentality.
Mhm.
As long in written form, you could have 1,001 stories, and you can
Mhm.
always have something new. But the problem is you're dealing with a visual media with a physical person,
Yes.
and so you're not seeing Harrison Ford right out of Star Wars time frame. You're seeing Harrison Ford right out of the geriatric ward, and so
yeah.
it's there's kind of this dichotomy. Is like, can he continue carrying it? And then if he can't, for us because we're so visual, we see people, it hits us because like, man, this was Indiana Jones. It's almost sad to see him out there.
Yeah.
And so-
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
There comes this point of like, how are they going to tie this in? How are they going to make it happen? Do they transition? I think if this was an animated thing, you could pull that off. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed that in the previews from the new Indiana Jones movie that there's going to be several scenes where they're doing the CGI youngified thing.
De-aging. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. It
Which
depends
is
on how
hit
they're
or
going to do it.
miss depending on how good they do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could have like the rubber figures jumping from vehicle to vehicle, a la Matrix kind of style,
Right?
Oh my
dodging
gosh.
bullets and everything.
While
guess
the
they
younger
could.
one swings on vines with monkeys.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now,
that's what
Book
we
of
want.
Gaming says that the Last Crusade was the last true Indiana Jones movie for him.
Mm-hmm. And I'd imagine most people
Mhm.
would say that. I would be among them. Paul,
But
what's
I
your
wouldn't.
take on this?
I completely disagree with everybody. I think Indiana Jones itself is an iconic character. He goes on these serial adventures,
Yeah.
and therefore there are a lot, like you said, there are a lot of stories.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at him as an iconic figure like Batman, that he will be played by many actors in the future. And
Right.
it's
sort of
just
like a James
oh, we have
Bond type character.
Sure. Yeah. And
Okay.
it'll be rebooted and people will have their favorites. Of course, I think we'll all go to our grave thinking that Harrison Ford is the best.
Mhm.
But
Well, half of his
I-
movies are the best.
I do look forward to seeing what adventures that I think can be great adventures that can be
Mhm.
told, especially like you said, animated. Well, animated is just another actor or,
Yeah.
actors playing that character. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
I say bring it on. But
Yeah.
it better be good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good
That
point.
is the thing I think we all can agree on.
Yeah.
It's not that we want the character to go away completely. I think it's
Mhm.
just if you're gonna do something, if you're gonna make a new thing in this franchise, make it good, please.
But that's
Yeah.
that's such
Oh.
the difficulty that we're dealing with culture right now is
Yeah.
how do you make the transition with a character and in what way do you do it? We live in a time frame where it's normal to see a new Bond. Now we're getting into some conversations like, okay, does Bond need to become a woman? Does Bond need to be this? Is Bond just a code name for a specific or for a specific person, or is a general code name for several people taking on a role?
Right.
And that's a huge conversation that takes place.
Yeah.
But we're used to seeing that. But
Mhm.
this is Harrison Ford. Like that's the
Mhm.
problem is we see Harrison Ford. And I think Paul hit the real nail. We're gonna go to Gray going. Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
If they can do a great transition, a great of
Mhm.
going passing on the mantle or a reboot where it is a new person, or do
Yeah.
a hey, this is a young Indiana Jones but not boring thing, and have a new person.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
they pull off, but it's difficult. They have to have great writings. Great
Yeah, I
writer.
think that's you know what, you guys, I came into the conversation thinking one way, but you've actually really turned me around. If we can come up, I think it makes a lot of sense to make Indiana Jones a more like, that's the character. He's so fused right now in everyone's minds with Harrison Ford. I remember even playing Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis on stream and thinking, this would be so much better if it's Harrison Ford voicing this, because he's so ingrained in my mind. But
Sure.
I think if they it's going to be painful, but if Disney did the work of like, you know what, we're going to make this. Indiana Jones is going to be, sometimes he's going to be animated, sometimes he's going to be TV shows, sometimes he's going to be movies, and it's just a different story. It's more like Paul was saying. Well, I don't think you said this. I think you said more like the serials, Paul. I almost feel like it should just be episodic. Like, they're not really connected necessarily. I think trying to have an overarching story that encompasses everything is probably a bit too much for this character, when there are so many adventures that you could just sort of explore and have fun with this character. But
Now,
I
this
think,
is an interesting idea.
I think that they're one more point, Dallas.
Yeah.
I think
Sorry.
the problem is they're trying to milk Harrison Ford for all he's worth, instead of letting the IP just be its own thing. Go ahead, Dallas.
Well, I was about to say that Book of Gaming brought up a great idea of an anime of Indiana Jones would look awesome.
Yes.
But again, it's a matter of finding the right platform, the right storytellers to do it. I don't think that just changing platforms will work. It has to be a fantastic story that grips both the old audience and newer audiences for it to be well.
Yeah.
Do you guys think, and this is a little off topic from this, but I recently heard some other people talking about this whole idea of this lack of seemingly good storytellers in movies and television. And I think that's certainly a broad statement or a generalized statement. There are good writers everywhere, but do you wonder if there's the generation that's currently now writing and stuff was not really raised on movies? They're more raised on like almost early YouTube, social media, and there is this sort of there's this disregard for how the art form of movie making and how stories were told in days of yore, a la the 80s, 70s, 60s. Do you think that's a component of this, or
I don't know if
at all.
it's the
Not at all,
filmmakers
okay.
themselves, but it does seem like recently a lot of movies and TV shows are being put out more like content than actually standalone
Art.
stories as
Or
an art.
yeah.
It's more of getting out as much content as you can, get in the algorithm. Like, we don't know anything about having to deal with algorithms. But instead of actually producing, high quality content that, people actually want to see, they're just getting the stuff out there that the algorithm will put out in front of people that's just good enough in a lot of cases. I think this is what's been killing a lot of the MCU recently too, but that's another matter.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. Book of Gaming says, as far as storytelling, in my opinion, it's not what it used to be. Storytelling nowadays relies heavily on memes or memorable moments. I was watching a streamer talk about him watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit, waiting for the cliche meme moment. Moments. I was watching a streamer talk about.
There really wasn't any. It was
Yeah,
a
yeah, I
solid
think-
noir mystery movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. Is like, there's so many like, I hit this moment. I want an animated GIF of this thing.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're trying to make your movie in that way, you're gonna miss out on the parts that really connect with an audience, I think.
And
I
besides
think
that,
there's-
when you're talking about animated GIFs, it's always better if it's something that organically comes from the audience liking it, not something
Yeah.
pre-produced by some producer in Hollywood,
Right.
Exactly.
forced down our throats.
So let me ask you guys this. I have not seen The Chosen. This is to pivot to
Why
sort of
not?
Christian dynamic of this. I honestly don't know. I don't know why I haven't seen it. But I haven't seen it. Raise of hands, how many of you watched The Chosen? I know Paul has.
Paul's
Oh,
able to save one in the group.
The reason I haven't watched it is simply because I have a natural aversion to most quote unquote Christian media, because a lot of it does seem to be very shallow
Okay.
and not
Well,
very story focused.
So
And I don't
there's-
like being preached to outside of the church sermon.
That makes sense. What I'm getting at is there's been lots of tellings of Christ's life, whether it's his birth and nativity or his crucifixion, or even more of the miracles or what have you. There's been lots of different tellings of Jesus, and it's still something that we can go back to and continue to show his life in different ways, whether it's books or graphic novels or movies or shows. So I guess let's go with you, Drew, since you just brought up this, like, I don't want content that's preaching at me. Have you?
Well,
has there-
when I say I don't want content that's preaching at me, it's just a lot of the Christian media seems more so focused on delivering a message that
Mhm.
they forget to put in a story in there that helps to support that message strongly. Because you always have in a lot of those movies, you know, the kind I'm talking about, like the what is the name of that
like
film company?
Facing Giants, Courageous, those types of.
Yes, it just feels like there's always that come to Jesus moment where they lay it out for the people who, you know, and granted, got to be preaching the gospel if you're going to do a Christian thing anyway. I get that,
Mhm.
but it never really feels like it fits in organically in the movie. It's just, it always feels like it's we get to that point and we got to do the quick come to Jesus moment and then back to the story. And a lot of
Yeah.
times the story before all that is just so very Hallmark movie channel
Okay,
kind of stuff.
interesting. Mm-hmm.
I maybe that's just me. I don't know, but
It's
Well-
just you, because I find it not as much as Hallmark as it's boring drama, rather than
like I said,
small
Hallmark.
town love story.
I'm just saying there's a bit of a formulaic thing.
Oh, sure,
and
yeah,
it
yeah.
never seems like it is going any deeper than what I would say like Hallmark movie channel sort of thing.
Sure.
Yeah, I wonder if there's an element that with I feel like stories, at least in movies, that's mainly the medium I go to. There's less of a emphasis, or there's less a willingness to risk a movie where there's ambiguity about the ending, where it leaves it open for the audience members to discuss it after. It's almost like they have to handhold you. This is how it is. This is what happened. And so I think that short circuits the ability to discuss deeper meanings in the movie. It's almost like it has to be completely manufactured, as opposed to having some depth that you can actually explore.
Well, the argument against that is that you want a satisfying ending so that people will like it and talk about it, and put the deep, meaningful stuff in the middle, and have them, if they like it,
Okay.
they'll talk about it and
Yeah.
and then they'll talk about, oh, what'd you think of, you know, are we living in the
Yeah.
Matrix now?
I'm not sure. I'm not saying there should be no closure, but I'm saying I think there's a
okay.
lack of having sort of those elements of like, well, I don't know. Would he have knocked the vase over if the Oracle had told him? What do you think about that? But how much? I'm trying to think of like the Christian perspective of this. I guess it can be just our own perspective. Dallas, you haven't weighed in on this. What are your thoughts on in terms of like let's sort of end with this. Do you think that movies should have a very blatant Christian message, or should it be more subtle? I guess we'll end.
And we are
this
going all over the place with
story
this.
section. Yeah, this is exactly. This is like, and that's
I
fine. This is a
think
conversation.
that
It's
it
not
should
a
be
lecture.
based on the purpose of the film. So if you
Okay.
have a film that's purpose is to preach, let it preach. Let's do stuff. If you have a purpose of entertain. If you're a Christian filmmaker and you want to entertain people, do it, and your Christian values dictate how you entertain. If you are wanting to create something suspenseful and you're a Christian who wants to create suspense, create a story that is suspenseful, but let your Christian values dictate how you tell that suspense story.
Right.
You don't have to
ruin the
shoehorn
suspense
things.
by trying to shoehorn things in.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Mhm.
We we were just talking about it on my stream a bit ago. We look at the Apostle Paul, and people's mindset of Paul is he's preaching, he's in jail, he's doing all this other stuff, and he's just go go go. But we forget the fact that he was also a tent maker, that he lived a normal life, that he lived life with people, did life with people. He had to clean his laundry. He had to live normal life. Now, amidst that, does he share the gospel? Yes, he does, absolutely. But he does just live a casual life, and I think that people lose the balance of, either they think that you all the time your voice is talking about Jesus and you're always preaching at people and all this other stuff, or you swing the other direction where you don't at all. You take the idea of preach the gospel, but when necessary use words, and you use it to the extreme where people go, do you know Jesus?
Right.
There's a balance in that, and as artists we have to figure out what our purpose is for the content that we create when we put out. I love when an artist is able to express himself well and it's in a Christian mindset. I love when a Christian artist, like music-wise, puts out a gospel album it presents the gospel, it's clear and it's passionate and it's theologically solid, and at the same time it sounds quality. That's kind of the balance that we run into a lot of times, where there's a lot of gospel given that's legit, the quality is in the tank. I think about like kind of switching genres here from movies to music. Cross movement back in the early 2000s, late 90s.
I remember them.
PID, T-Bone, several other people, they put out quality music with strong gospel lyrics. And early Lecrae was that same way. It's quality stuff, hard-hitting stuff. I mean, it was just solid. However, there were some people who did not. And, now today you got people like Lecrae and a couple other people, their lyrics aren't as direct theologically with some of their stuff, but their faith does reflect their lyric space. NF is another individual. His lyrics are very come from a Christian point of view. He's talking about dealing with life in a Christian perspective, and they are some, like, people are looking at this guy in a serious manner going, wow, like his lyric base, his skills, his flow it's up there with like Eminem, and not cheesy. And there's a lot of respect for that. And I think that, coming back to the topic of film, if Christian filmmakers could create content that was quality and present the gospel, rock it out. If they can create quality content and their stuff is reflected in it, that's awesome. Do it. The problem you run into, kind of what Drew was talking about with there's this awkward shoehorning in of their salvation, and there's the crying, and then the camera's panning up and they're looking up in the air and all that kind of stuff. I think the problem is it's extremely difficult to truly replicate the Christian experience of salvation. It's such a raw and such a passionate
personal thing.
There's a transformation takes place in people, and everyone's a little bit different. It's hard to replicate and it be real. And when a person's trying to write that, how do you write that? How do you write your soul was transformed from the inside and turned into from darkness to light?
I think you just did.
But how do you show that in a way that makes sense in a filmmaking thing?
This is my biggest issue with a movie like Walk the Line, where Johnny Cash became a Christian later in life, but the movie totally doesn't go to that at all. He has some if I recall right, I've seen it like once, but he has some what's it called, where he's restored. He has some restoration with his father, I think, by the end. I could be misremembering, but I would have loved to hear more about his coming to Christ and
that's a
seeing
different
that
story,
personal
though.
story. Well, I feel like I think you could have had that be a part of it and it'd been a much fuller biopic. And
It sounds
I mean, they don't have to.
You're calling to make that better pick.
Maybe, but we have been in the story section of Story Coming and Geekery for quite some time. A lot of great comments here in chat. You guys are awesome, but we gotta move on so we have time to cover all these things.
I want to point out one comment that I love. It's how did we get here from Indiana Jones?
Exactly. That's what. See, and actually, I personally, I mean, you guys might feel differently. I personally love that because a windy road of a conversation between friends, you'll end up at B and you're like, how did we get here from A? But Drew, take us to C with our next story on Magical, and I'll bring it up here for everyone to see.
So we talked about memes earlier, and apparently, since all of us on like Twitter and Facebook and such like to give memes, Elon Musk, who recently just bought Twitter, put up this meme he made about that fake pictures. This girl on the left is from a manga, and I believe there's an anime also called Magical Girl Site, which is very dark, and I have not watched it, so I don't know what it's about, other than girls who had hard lives getting magical girl powers and somehow killing people, and it gets very dark. That's all I know about it. But I think the question,
I don't know much about
I think the question that comes up out of this is, since at least in my mind, it's like, how much of a joke can we make out of some of these images? And and since that's the thing, is the creator of the Magical Girl Site manga is actually wanting Elon Musk to pay him royalties because politically, I think they disagree on some things. At least that's my understanding from the article.
Is Elon Musk making money from that post?
It's on Twitter, so how about where is that line?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. But let's say, Paul J. Powers, you're using a meme. Like, where is that line for you? Like, when does it? I mean, you're an artist too. You did your Inktober, amazing artwork that you're doing. Where's that line personally for you? Where if someone took a piece you made to make it into a meme, where did you feel like, hey, I put so much heart and soul into this, and now you're turning it into a joke? Is it only if they're making money off of it? Or,
yeah, I would be on the side of hey, if you're making money off of it, that I don't get a cut of that. That's where it's a money issue for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I don't know. Other people are like oh, you're gonna paint a picture of Muhammad, I'll kill you. Like there's different lines for different people.
yeah, exactly. Drew, how do you feel about that? Like, where's that line for you? Or I know your friend Jacob illustrates a lot.
Considering I just photoshopped like 3 of us onto Anya in the last hour, I kind of feel like I've already broken some of that rule. Oh, go ahead and show the other 2, Dallas. I don't care.
I don't have them downloaded.
But
and they won't fit in the background.
Fair enough. But admittedly, doing that, you are using copywritten work, and that does technically own to somebody. I know there's some people out there who say either copyright is just completely broken, it needs to be more open, and some people say copyright intellectual property doesn't exist. I'm not going down that road either. But admittedly, this all belongs to somebody, and honestly, I don't know where that line is. Now, granted, if you go and sell artwork that you didn't make, even if it's this quote unquote meme, that's illegal. But free for the most part, I don't. It doesn't bother me that much. That being said, I am reminded of Calvin and Hobbes. When Bill Watterson never the author of that, he never licensed anything out except for the collections of the comics. So that means all those pictures of Calvin you saw, taking care of his business on different things back in the 90s, those were all technically illegal, but they were also memes.
Yeah.
So,
but somebody made money off of it.
Somebody made money off of that, and it wasn't Bill Watterson.
Right. Is that right? No. But
no.
Also, I'm a child of the 80s and 70s and stuff. Back then, it was like if you have your product in a movie, that was considered free advertising. Like, hey, great.
Yes.
Now it's like a money-making opportunity, and I'm kind of like going back to like, well, no, Pepsi, we're not making more money because we have you in our movie, so you're not going to get any money. So it should be free. I'm more of the, hey, let's use it as free advertising rather than I use your image and not get any money from it. You know, that's anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have a
the minute you start paying for this, you come into whose message is getting across.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Pepsi wants you to really know that their drink is the best tasting one out there, then you've got to somehow get somebody to say that, whether it just needs to sit on a back table or in a back of the lobby in a vending machine or whatever.
Right.
Exactly. Dallas, do you drink Pepsi or Coke?
I think Dr. Pepper.
There you
Oh,
go.
well, all right then. Fine.
I only drink the real thing if I can get this turned around the right way.
Where do you land on this? Do you feel a conviction about using art or memes or GIFs or anything like that? Or
If I'm making money off of it, then I'm very hyper focused on it. I am probably hyper conscious about copyright issues.
Sure.
Because I don't want to get sued.
yeah.
Amen to that, brother.
But some of it is it's something that was instilled in me by one of my mentors about, you know, a worker is worth his wage, and you know, this is their work, this is what they have. So I try not to use things that are copyrighted in things that I produce that I make money off of in a way that's not appropriate. Now, there's the question about fair use, what is allowed, what's not a use. You know, like what we do with Geek Devotions, what we do, we're using it for a teaching purpose. So it falls underneath some of that free use laws and stuff that you have going on. Our fair use laws.
Yeah.
There
The problem is fair use is more of a defense than actual. You can't just declare something's fair use, because you have to actually defend that in court when
exactly.
when they sue you for it.
When they sue you for it.
Yeah.
So I try to give credit to people where it's due. Now memes, it's become such a prominent part of culture of creating a meme and putting it out there. It, you know, I feel like we're in a new gray area that's going to have to come down to a legal conversation as to what is appropriate and what's not. You know, I mean, we've made memes of all of us today except for Paul.
Yes.
I have my own meme right here.
Oh my
god!
There you go.
So, again, it's just kind of a case by case situation for me, where I just go, okay, well, this is that, and I try not to overstep my bounds, the boundaries of people.
I guess for me, I'm sort of landing on this spot of it doesn't prick my conscience, because it's almost on par to. Again, like I said, not if I were to take this this magical girl meme, take her crying, and then cut it out, post, or even take this whole thing. I don't know who made this, like Viking guy, but just take this whole thing and sell it.
That guy minus the little helmet thing there has been in like a ton of.
Oh, is that
memes.
the Chad guy?
I think so.
With the helmet, just with the helmet.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense.
I looked up the origins of the meme because I was curious. She is not in a good mood in the source material. I'm just going to say that right now.
Okay, gotcha.
Oof.
So
a lot of horrible things happened right before this picture was taken. So use of that picture to me almost seems like, you know, bad taste in and of itself.
That's fair. That's fair. But what I was going to say is, I mean, I'm a lover of quoting movies, but that's intellectual property, and that someone took time to craft those words in just that way, with that and those actors use that inflection. So there's quoting movies.
Well,
if you're going to go down this road of, you have to pay me royalties for a meme, then I have to pay royalties for quotes.
The guy Let's Get Ready to Rumble, you know, he's copyrighted that, and he actively sues people when they use it in their productions.
Right. It's just like in the movie Teen Wolf. They had basically they said with greater power comes greater responsibility. That's back in the 80s when it was considered like free advertisement. They said if they can't use that today, otherwise Marvel or Disney would sue them. It's just the same thing. Yeah.
Yep. But
I will say
you're making a new product that you're earning money off of. Whereas if I'm just quoting something, then I don't think it's quite the same thing. Go ahead.
I will say in this instance, the quote about him wanting the royalties on it is definitely said in jest in this, because what he quotes is like, well, $1 billion usage fee. That's at that point you're just being what's the word I'm looking for? Not rhetorical. Anyway,
You're making a statement.
you're making a statement.
Yeah.
I guess rhetorical is the closest word I can think of, but or satirical. Satirical is really what I think what I'm going for. It's more of I don't want you using this because and on that's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Mhm. So wait,
But
oh, go ahead. Paul.
I was about to say,
It's not meant to be taken seriously. Is what I'm trying to say.
or is it? It's like a Bill
Sarcastically.
Watterson
Yeah.
situation where he doesn't want any of his work out there without going through him first.
Except
his
he's
way of
not
saying
going
that.
after every other person who's
Oh,
used
okay.
this meme. He's Elon Musk did it, because he's the biggest one. But let's face it, Twitter right now is kind of a weird, controversial topic, especially
Yeah.
since Elon Musk bought it. So
Yes.
Exactly.
I suspect it's more along those lines than
Yeah, I think
actually wanting royalties for the usage of this meme.
if Magical, the creator of Magical Girl, really was not just looking for either clout or money, she'd be going after every single person that used a Magical Girl meme. Otherwise, she
Or
doesn't
she
really
doesn't
have
have the
standing.
time. It just goes after the big fish.
Well, but then you don't have standing.
But
You're
he's
not
but
willing
from
to
what
defend.
and the
it.
only thing is it looks like he's only going after this one.
Yeah.
You look at some of the memes that have come out of like image galleries
Mhm.
where they've used that, and some of the bigger people, if they don't actually credit the original image gallery, or they don't have the rights, those image galleries have been known to sue them. in the
But all
past.
this is moot because the AI are stealing all the images and making their own.
I think this is why NFTs were a thing for a while, even though it ultimately failed also. So
It's still a thing. What are you talking about?
it's a
Maybe.
scam.
How
thing,
many
but
NFTs
sure.
did you? How many monkeys did you buy, Francisco?
Let's not talk about that right now.
It's
No,
still
I
a
actually
thing,
have-
man.
Are they
I
enough
haven't bought any
to swing on vines with what's his
Shia
face
LaBeouf?
from Even
With the
Stevens?
Shia LaBeouf. Yeah.
Shia LaBeouf, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Bring it back to Indiana Jones again. Book of Gaming said that reminds me of the attack of the pizza monsters in the Ninja Turtles cartoon. They literally were xenomorphs from Alien, but when the reference, and then I lost it. Dang it!
But then when they reference them in the new game, Shredder's
Shredder.
Revenge.
Oh yeah, they had to put a big slice of pizza on their head because copyright is so tight. Wow, jeez.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. And then Dale says, if you watch the credits of the original Karate Kid at the end, you'll see the words "the title used in consent with DC Comics." Really? Because
They
Karate
probably
Kid was a
copyrighted
property
that title.
of- Oh, interesting. I didn't.
But if
I
your
wasn't
movie's
aware
made
of
with
that.
Warner Brothers, you're okay.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's get into the last story of the night. This Dallas, can you introduce this for us?
Yeah, so HBO has released the Last of Us trailer, and for those who don't know, Last of Us is a very epic, kind of almost survival game of a dude trying to survive the zombie apocalypse.
It's a
He's
video
escort-
game, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
he's escorting the one
Originally
person
came
who
out on the
seems to be
PS3.
immune to the zombie virus,
Mm.
and they're talking about how this looks pretty legit. You know, anytime Hollywood goes to make a video game, anything, looking at you, Mario Brothers.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Uncharted.
Yeah, Uncharted.
Wait, which Mario Brothers, the good one or the bad one?
Both. There is only no bad.
Because
good
actually,
one.
we don't know if the good one's actually good.
Yeah, but people get nervous about it. But this, like, the article is saying that a lot of the it's 9 episodes that involves original creators of the game extensively taking part in the whole process. So this isn't just like some people who like in the case of Mario Brothers from the 90s, where it was a Russian couple who wanted to tell a story and they shoehorned Mario into it. These are guys who like are passionate about this game, and they're like, we're telling the story. And so it's just interesting to see this taking place. And I like video game movies and shows and everything because it's fun to see things come alive. But at the same time, it's like one of those train wrecks. Like, oh gosh, you're gonna ruin it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you never really know going into it.
Yeah. So I guess the question opens up. What game properties or even just geekery properties that you guys love? Do you guys see coming in theaters that you're excited about, or are you not excited about?
Yeah.
So I will go ahead and touch on Super Mario Brothers movie, the new one, because I actually do think it looks like it's going to be good.
Really?
I'm still a little worried about Chris Pratt's performance as Mario,
Yeah.
only because we have not actually heard him say an entire line yet, anything more than like 2 or 3 words, and that worries me.
Yeah.
But everyone else sounds good.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you look back on it, a lot of the video game movies that have come out in like the last 5 years have actually been at least halfway decent.
Yeah.
Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic the Hedgehog 2 are far better movies than they had any right to be. Now, they're not perfect. They are not perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
No, but they are fun popcorn movies.
They are fun popcorn movies. And let's face it, as soon as I see a trailer for... I don't have to watch the trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog 3 whenever that happens. I'm at the movie theater because I want to see if it's either going to be great or it's going to be bad. Yeah. I don't have to see another trailer for Mario to know I'm going to be in that theater.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's because they've been so good recently. But then I still think back to, what was it, back nearly 10 years ago when Disney put out Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And I still have not played that game. And I could tell this is nothing like the game.
It was rough.
This
it was
is
rough.
bad.
Well, it seemed like they put out the Assassin's Creed movie a couple years ago.
Right.
I didn't see that one either.
Had all the great elements to it, but it was terrible execution.
Well, is this going back to that they're not... I haven't seen those movies. Would you feel like they didn't adapt the story well? Or are there some video games that you just can't really make into a narrative? It's just like... No, the narrative is so slim in the game. It's really about the game mechanics, and there's just a little
well, it might be like movies based on books. Like almost always the book is better because it's in that format where they're allowed to explore and take the best of it, and then they try to shoehorn it into a movie. It's probably the same thing with video games, I imagine.
A lot of times, from my experience, I swear I just thought I heard Lavender Town music. Sorry.
It does sound like that, yes.
Speaking of video games.
Yeah. It's going to depend on the property itself. Like something like a Minecraft movie, I'm not sure how well that would work.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's one in production, but then I thought the same thing about the first Lego movie.
That's true.
And I enjoyed the first Lego movie.
Yeah.
Others I have issues with, but you want to hear more about that, listen to our podcast.
The thing about the Lego movie, though, is that they were like, we have characters, let's tell a story. But then you have things like Street Fighter 1992.
A fun movie, even though it is bad.
Right. But the thing is, if you look at just the Street Fighter games, there's very little story. Like we're piecing together lore. There may be, I don't know if the comics were even around at that point. I know that there was a massive property back then, but they weren't going to any source materials. They're like, here's all 16 characters from Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Do something.
Right.
And they did. And we're trying to shoehorn a story out a little, and that's the difference between video game movies and book movies. Video game movies have 9 times out of 10, at least the older ones, have very little story.
Yeah.
And we're trying to make a 2-hour movie. Whereas books, and this is the problem running with book stuff, is book movies have 1,000 pages and we're trying to condense it down. And it's super difficult.
Games like Last of Us and Uncharted have this epic, long story.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the difference, though. This is why I'm not angry and I'm kind of excited about Last of Us. Uncharted has great, amazing story. The game does. It's long and it takes several hours to play, and they try to squeeze it down into an hour and a half movie. Last of Us is going, hey, we have a really great long play game. We're going to take 9 hour-long episodes and tell a story for season 1.
They think they have more time to flesh it out, so it should be a la better because of that. Okay.
Exactly.
There's no guarantee of that, if we're being honest.
Sure.
Right. You're right. There is no guarantee.
My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't watched the Witcher TV show, but I know that came out, and some people liked it, and some people didn't.
I can tell you that from a storytelling point of view, it was a good story. I enjoyed it. There are a couple scenes that I had to check out on.
Yeah,
for
exactly,
personal
yes.
moral
Right.
reasons.
Mhm.
But it was a great story. Now, I've not played The Witcher. I think, Francisco, you played The Witcher.
I played The Witcher a little bit. I'm
How
certainly
did it
not
work
hard-
out?
It was
I'd
based on
say
a book
it's actually
series.
more enjoyable watching I played a little bit of the first game. I'd
Mhm.
say watching the series, I only saw the first season, was more enjoyable than playing the game. I was disheartened to hear, apparently a factor it's come out that why Henry Cavill has left The Witcher is just because they weren't respecting the source material, they weren't respecting the books or even the games, and it's just like becoming less and less about Geralt, which that's who The Witcher is. That's who you want to
Yeah.
see on screen, and it's all about the secondary characters. Not that they can't have importance, but I mean, you don't go to a Superman movie that's headlined by a Plastic Man. That's just not how it works. You go to a Superman movie to see Superman. You go to a Batman movie to see Batman.
Right.
And so I think the same thing was holding true, that it was just way askew from where it should have been.
Right.
But as far as Last of Us or games that I'd be excited about, games with a large narrative, almost on par with the book, I could see working very well as a movie. Like we talked about on our Chrono Trigger episode, which has yet to come out, but how it'd be so amazing to watch an anime of this story. And I feel like I'd be able to absorb it so much better as in that format than playing a game where it's so easy to miss things because you have to touch all the pieces. Anyway, but I speaking back to the Street Fighter element, the Street Fighter 2 animated movie, the anime, they do a story really well in that, and it actually is cohesive and makes sense. And they
Are you
bring
talking
in
about
a ton of
the animated movie or the anime series?
animated movie.
Okay,
I haven't seen this series.
And see, the thing is, both of them were interesting. The animated series was more geared towards kids. I think the movie was more towards adults.
Yeah.
I know it was geared more towards the adults, but
The uncut version, yeah.
but they also pulled. This was Japan going, "This is our property, America. You screwed up." And at the same time, Capcom's going, "We have a backlog of manga and stories. Let's pull from this and grow on this."
Oh, nice.
And that's part of it. And then at the same time, they're like, "We can actually make these fantastical things take place within the game." Whereas in live action,
it's a lot harder to pull off.
I mean,
nowadays
they
you might
tried
be
to do
able
a Hadouken with a lens flare, for crying out loud, in the
Lord.
movie.
Gosh. Jeez.
Which I didn't even know when I saw that was supposed to be a Hadouken.
yeah,
Could have fooled me. It's been
Everything
so
you're
long
doing
since
is bad. I want you to know this.
Paul,
I mean,
are
a
there
TV
any-
series does have a better chance of being good as long as they can craft a good serialized story over a long period of time.
and
about to say,
respect
as long
the
as-
original property, because I
Yeah.
believe a lot of people have issues with the Halo series because they're not respecting the original property.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
they're
I
breaking some
forgot there
rules.
was a Halo series, but you're right.
Oh, you mean
yes.
you mean the series that was originally going to be created to be an Xbox 360 Live thing and kept getting pushed back for like 10 years till it came out like what 2 years ago?
On Paramount
Yeah.
Plus, which
Paramount
that?
Plus.
that
Well, I
the
mean,
one
I
that
do,
was-
but that's because I need more Star Trek in my life.
Is that the one that was Steven Spielberg was involved
Yeah.
in?
But
think
it's
so.
really
So.
started off life as an Xbox 360 special movie, special series,
Yeah.
Craziness. Yeah, it's weird how.
and it took that long
Sometimes-
for it to finish.
Yeah, and when things change hands so much like that, I don't think things can really. I feel like you're undercutting a lot of chance of it being successful. I guess things could still be successful having gone through all that.
Which
But-
goes back to what I was going to comment on, Francisco. What you thought, like movie writers or storytellers today not being raised on movies
Yeah.
or whatever. I think to go back, that circles back. Just like these, I think the problem is right now more titles are created by committees rather than single voices.
Than storytellers,
So they're
yes,
trying
yes.
to appeal to everybody as much as they can, and then
Yep.
when you try to appease everybody, you wind up pleasing
Appeasing no
less.
one. Yeah,
Right.
Which
that's
is
a- that's a great
probably
insight,
why
yes.
Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is so bad. See, I brought us back to the
Ah,
beginning. It's a
there
big
you
circle.
go.
It rhymes.
Nice. Well
The
done.
I saw an interview with Matt Damon once, and he was talking about how he could not pull off Good Will Hunting today. That movie could not be written.
There's so many movies like that they couldn't be made today because
could not be.
Why is that?
and stuff.
He was saying that they could not be greenlit today because the production company, because of the advent of streaming services and how fast things go from theaters to DVD and stuff like that. That they have to, the movie production company, like, we have to make more money now.
Yeah.
So what's going to draw people in the closest?
Right.
And so they forego storytelling stories that may not get a big audience, but will get a big back end on people doing DVDs and stuff like that.
Yep.
And they go for the big boom, flashy, let's get everyone excited about stuff for a moment.
That's been the same of all big studios. I remember hearing that about 10 years ago. They said, look, if we can't put it on lunch boxes and merchandise and have like potential world building, like multiple sequels in mind, then we're not going to greenlight it. So that
was before the cinematic universes started trying to take over.
Right. And so all these single stories like Good Will Hunting, I think is basically the same as it was when it came out. It came out through Miramax, which I think was before Disney bought it. It was basically a lot of independent movie studios. If you want your story to be told, you got to go through the independent studios.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think there's still an element of studios I think there's always been risk averseness in business because you don't want to just like burn your money unless you're Disney and want to burn your Strange World money. Okay, whatever. I'm not gonna get into that.
I haven't watched that movie yet, so I can't tell you if it's good or bad. But I've heard.
I'm sure it's bad.
No, but the box office. He's just talking box office numbers there.
Yeah.
But
Disney, please do better. We don't need to be proving Francisco right about his hatred for you.
For the most part, studios, you want to get your return on investment at least as much as you put in. Hopefully a little bit more.
But that wasn't the case in like the 80s and before. They knew like it would be basically about 4-1 or 5-1. One would do well, 4 or 5 would bomb, and they would make enough money off that one. And they didn't know back then which one was going to succeed or not.
Yeah,
But
I think nowadays they don't
now
even
you
do
can't.
that.
Yeah, they don't have that philosophy
every single
anymore.
one to
exactly.
be which doesn't allow for ingenuity, doesn't allow for creativity. It's just like it has to be very, like you said, Paul, it has to check all the boxes, it has to be by committee, so that it'll appeal to everyone.
It becomes content instead of art.
Yeah.
Kind of what you were saying before, Drew. Exactly.
Which is why small little film festivals become so important now.
Yeah.
Is for people to do that kind of stuff. And that's the interesting thing right now that's taking place in content creation platforms such as YouTube and TikTok. There is a big almost renaissance of like, let's tell stories. Let's engage people. Every marketing expert's going to tell you with YouTube, tell a story, engage people, pull them in. There's this guy that I tracked down on TikTok, and I can't remember his name right now, but he's doing this amazing story, and he's on season 2 of the story on TikTok. These are like 1.5, 3-minute clips talking about this alternate world of Super Mario Brothers where Mario loses his mind because he discovers that Luigi and Princess Peach have been having an affair for decades.
Oh, jeez.
And it boils down to the fact at the end of season 1 that the reason why that this has taken place was they were always in love, but Mario's first love, Daisy, from the first Mario Brothers game,
from Super Mario Land.
Yeah,
or
she.
Oh, I thought it was no. Sorry, I was thinking
one
that
from Donkey Kong
Pauline.
is technically Pauline.
Yeah,
but she. Pauline rather.
Yeah,
his first love.
Knock off olive oil.
He thought she left him, and he was heartbroken. Yeah. And the king, not knowing the relationship between Luigi and Princess Peach, offered his daughter's hand in marriage, and they started courting in that mindset. And because Luigi had such a heart for his brother, didn't want to break his brother's heart because he saw him finally happy with Peach, said, all right, I just won't do this. Well, years go by. And so Mario finds out and he becomes enraged and he loses his mind. And it's this really great story being told through 1 to 3 minute clips on TikTok.
Yeah, just a bit depressing.
Now,
but it's impactful, and he plays all the characters.
Wow.
Now, if he's making money off that, is that morally?
Yeah, I feel like
It
he
all
needs some
comes
IP.
back.
I do want to say though, I think bring this back almost to Jesus. Do you guys? Because I think so often people will say, well, if Jesus could have just come today, he could have reached so many more people with the technology there was. I mean, that's to say nothing of roads being such a grand technology back when he is around that allowed his message to spread. But is there an element of sometimes us, especially us, all of us here are content creators in some form or fashion, and people watching here will probably also, in some way. Is there this? Do you feel like I know for me personally, I there's often a temptation to feel like I wish more people were watching, more people were listening, like people are just more interested in what I'm putting out there. But at the same time, Retro Rewind, and I think you guys too, have your core audiences that really care about what you're doing and even support to some extent. And so I think they're. Well, I guess what I'm trying to get
this?
yes, a long.
Okay.
I'm known for my long stories that go into a question, Paul. So just give me a second.
All right.
10 hours later. So what I'm really saying, guys, is
I hate
sauerkraut. Exactly. Now, where should we? How should we best image Jesus? Should we just image him in like who's ever going to be around and is willing to listen, they're going to listen, or should we try to
Shoehorn him in.
not shoehorn him in, but try to be in all the places, going to all the different cities in Eurasia or Asia Minor or whatever to share about. Not necessarily Jesus, though that's the key. I think that should always be the underline of what we do. But share about Cellcast, share about Retro, share about Geek Devotions. Like where's sort of that limit for sharing our things with others, or when should we just be content with whoever's listening is going to be who listens?
For me, and this is gonna sound like a cop-out answer, I go, what does God want? Like, what, like legitimately, like, what has Jesus said to you? What has God promised you? Where are you going to go with some stuff? And Jesus was very intentional for showing up when he did. He was very intentional about choosing the 12. He was very intentional about choosing the 3 within the 12. He was very intentional about choosing the 1 within that 3. He was very intentional about sending them to certain places and not allowing them to go to other places yet. And so the question becomes, what does God want you to do? And where has he sent you? And work what he's given you. I think about Shammah from the Bible. Shammah was one of David's mighty men. And there's like one paragraph, and it's just that he defended a bean field. That's all he did, was he had a bean field. It was just a bean field. There really wasn't anything special, but the king told him to guard that land.
He was Lord of the Beans.
So with that mindset, what has God given you? You may look at your stuff and you're like, man, this is just a bean field that I'm standing in. There's not much value to this place that I'm in. But it's what God's given you. It's what God has said, hey, Francisco, this is where I want you. Drew, this is the realm that you need to operate in. Paul, this is the art that you need to be walking in. And working that. And then if he goes, hey, guess what? You've been faithful with a little. Now let me give you something more. At the same time, we don't know the value of that bean field, what that could have been for people.
Exactly.
Joseph didn't know the value of being stuck in a prison for 12 years. He didn't understand the value of it, realizing, oh, this was to set me up to save a nation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so we have to ask ourselves, what does God have for us, and operate in that. At the same time, I'm a big fan of doing stuff with excellence, not perfection, but excellence. And there's a difference between that. Perfection is doing everything spot on, and it's great. And you can work for that, sure, but work with what you have. And if you can't do excellent work in 6,000 realms, do excellent work in one realm and walk that out. So that's my thought on it.
Paul. By the way, thank you so much, Elder Braid. Really appreciate that. We're getting, I think we're sort of coming to an end of this conversation. I mean, we can still continue, of course. Get to a natural end. Oh my gosh, you guys, would you stop it with that? I do want to hear, Paul. It sounded like you were saying something while Dallas was talking,
No, I was agreeing with him. That's so good because oftentimes I get distracted by things of like, oh, God has put this desire in my heart. Oh, did he? Or is it just like, oh, this looks cool and shiny? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I sometimes I feel like, hey, there's a lot of quivers in my no, there's a lot of arrows in my quiver. Sorry.
Yeah.
A lot of quivers in your arrow.
Yeah, but there's a lot of arrows in my quiver that I could be doing so much more, and I see areas that I could be making more of an impact, but God has not opened those doors. So I think it's great what Dallas says is don't be distracted by those closed doors, just focus on the ones that are open to you right now. You be excellent in those, and God may or may not reward you like accordingly, like he said to invest the talents. And then based on that, you will be rewarded with more. So, guard your beans and be content that, hey, not everybody gets to have a paragraph in the Bible.
That's
Right?
true. That's true. And I think there's, before I go off, Drew, what do you make of all of that? How does that sound to you? Do you feel like, no, you're wrong, Dallas. You're dead wrong.
Ditto. Y'all covered a lot of it. No, okay. So a couple weeks ago, I was looking for something on YouTube to kind of get sleepy to before I went to bed, and I came across a documentary on there about the guy who made the theme song to the Disney Channel. The last 4 notes of all the bumpers. I can't remember what they are right now, but
Ashley apparently watched that recently.
And what hit me on that is, that guy, he made that for was because, he made that in a day. He had no idea how long they were going to use that. He had, he just kind of threw it in there, and they've been using it for the last 20 some odd years.
Oh my gosh.
And I think the way he the creator of the documentary put it is, in a world where so many of us are just trying to get one note heard, how impressive is it that he got 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there needs to be a level of it's hard because so often you hear, at least I hear this a lot, is that it's a fallacy to say build it and they will come, wherever the field.
If you build it, they will come.
What's the name of the movie?
Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams. Thank you guys. Yeah. If you build it, they will
baseball
come.
cornfield. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That is a fallacy to imagine that. Oh, I can build a podcast. I can build a YouTube channel. I can build a theme park. I don't know, whatever it is. And that people will just automatically come because they exist. No, you actually have to put yourself out there and let people know that this thing exists. But I think there is a you can only do that so much. There's a lot of diminishing returns with that. I think really at your core, you need to make sure that whatever it is you're making you're doing it with excellence. I think Dale, said when I was a kid, whether good or bad, it was fun even knowing a Superman movie was coming. I had fun watching Nicholas Hammond in the Spider-Man suit in the late 70s. Today it sometimes feels like, oh, ho-hum, another superhero movie. And I wonder if there's this element, and maybe we need to guard what God has entrusted us with not letting it just become this iteration, this thing we just do because we do it. And to still like try to find new ways to either present it or new ideas to try, and just keep trying to evolve, keep trying to go ahead, Paul.
I was about to say there's a danger in trying to keep trying to make things new and trying to evolve. You can get so caught up in trying the latest trends rather than, I think if you try to keep it fresh. Now, whether that means you keep doing the same thing over and over, but you have a fresh attitude about it, maybe better than trying the latest trend. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm not trying to say it. Well, like for instance, just peek behind the curtain. So me and Paul are trying. Not that curtain, Paul.
I have never had my work so well shown off before. Once again, that only took me maybe 15 minutes.
And then
Hey, check
again,
out-
is this your work?
That is
Someone
my work.
put it together.
That's Drew's work. Yes.
That was my Photoshop flash job.
There we go.
There's. No, we're gonna totally derail.
All right.
Peek behind the veil. You're doing something
peek
new.
behind
that
the
different.
veil.
Something me and Paul are trying is this whole like story element. We've had this like for 10 years. We've had only reviews of movies and games are on the podcasting, but we're gonna start having
That's
like
what we do.
interstitial stories in between those now that that are gonna be telling this broader story of what's going on next year and such. And so we're trying. It's more. So we're trying something new, but we're still keeping our core thing. So I think, is this what you're talking to, Paul? You don't want to like, oh, we've been making burgers for 10 years. Let's start making cars. It's like, what?
Well, no, or like the latest, like I don't know. Sometimes I think it's good. Like Pizza Hut is like, hey, we make pizza. Let's do something fresh. Of like, hey, we have cheese stuffed crust pizza. They could try it, and see if it that's fine. But that
It's
doesn't
still
mean that
pizza at its
every
core.
right. But that doesn't mean that I'm a pizza place. I have to try cheese stuffed crust pizza as well. Because I'm Pizzasaurus Rex rather than Pizza Hut.
Oh my
or,
gosh,
you know what I mean?
Pizzasaurus Rex.
What I'm saying is you got to do you. I think
Wait,
what
that's
Dallas
an
was
actual
saying
place?
is that you got to do
It
you
is
with
an actual place,
excellence.
Yeah.
Rather, and sometimes
yeah.
the pizza crust or the cheese crust pizza will work for you. Sometimes it won't.
Yeah, okay. So, where do you find? Is that like a line where you just have to be in prayer and be listening to the Holy Spirit, because where that is gonna be different for everyone.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the
oh,
people of Israel followed a fire by night and a cloud by day because that's what was guiding them. They could have just been like, we're going to go left. Well,
Yeah,
left won't lead them right.
Right.
exactly. LJ says, been going through, this hits me hard, been going through this year as I have started my own content creation journey. Yeah. And totally trying to figure out where to land, how much to put out there, how much to just focus on what you're making. and something that I've been trying to, it's honestly a struggle, guys, for me to be realizing that like Retro Rewind, the streams we do, they are God's. They're not mine. God used me to make them, and I'm a steward of that creativity he gave me, but they are not mine. And I just have to constantly remind myself, these are God's, they're his gifts that I'm so blessed to get to be a part of. And that's so I don't know if that's a struggle for you guys at all, to be like, to think that, oh no, I made this. This is something I'm making, or I have ownership of. That I'm not trying to say that you feel that way, LJ. It's just, it made me think of that, so I wanted to share my own journey.
I think it's something we all run into is like we're working the ground for so long. We're going, man, look at all the hard work I put in. Well, I mean, look at all the hard work you've been allowed to put into something you're doing right now that God's given you. So I want to point out this, because there's the whole conversation about doing something new. There is a difference between organically growing into something new and going, let's just change. I was doing we just published an article on the first third of Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam, and I talked about how it's really interesting when you look at it. If you come straight from First Gundam to Zeta Gundam, there's an evolution that's taken place.
This
and
is
there
an
are things
anime for people that are like,
Right.
oh, what's a Gundam? Yeah, okay.
but it's a
Gundam is a giant robot.
Thank you.
but it's the
Japan.
storytelling. There's a lot of mirroring that takes place, but at the same time, that what you've seen character growth. It's not that it's a brand new series. I mean, it is a brand new series, but they haven't just changed things for the heck of it. You realize that it's a natural growth. Things just make sense. Yeah, you would naturally be here.
Yeah.
So whatever you're working, it makes sense as you grow. Then maybe things will look different, and then 10 years down the line, it will look different. We talked about this the other day.
Yeah.
We had a private chat. We were talking about this the other day. Like 10 years ago, I mean, where was Retro Rewind? You guys were using Google Hangouts. And
Yep.
you know, 7 years ago, where was Geek Devotions? Well, it was just about to start, and I had a Bluetooth lapel microphone that sounded like trash. You know, it's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And you know, we grow, we do all kinds of stuff. I mean, 10 years ago, were you streaming on Twitch 3 nights a week, doing pixel art, doing or doing all these things?
Nope.
No.
And
You weren't.
so there's, I mean, I guess I always love the example of a tree for visual analogies. You can't expect a sapling to support a swing, or you can't expect it to give you tons of lumber. You have to wait for it to grow, and eventually it has all the makings of that thing that can support a swing, or you can cut down and turn into a house or whatever. But it's not there yet. So is that sort of what you're talking about? That you can't. You're going to be, you may be starting out now, but that doesn't mean that you're only going to be there, and things may change as you grow to accommodate other things, or you're able to handle more.
Well, go with your tree analogy. Your core is still your core. Your base is still your base, and there may be offshoots that grow for a season, but maybe they need to be chopped off for the health of the core as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's all those things, like you have to be mindful of it. You have to be aware of the season and be prayerful about where you're at and what's going on.
Absolutely. This has been a fantastic conversation, guys. I'm going to read through some of the chat before we get out of here in case there's anything you guys want to respond to that you may have missed. Let's see. Rushmore Kirk says, I learned a great set of lesson in the Air Force that we have preached often: excellence in all we do, service before self, and integrity first. That totally makes sense. Jay says, indeed, I always thank God in prayer that he gave me the opportunity to have this small corner for the internet of people to come hang out. Absolutely. Japperman says, I applied nothing because I am nothing. Therefore, I can neither disappoint or create anticipation. I have spoken. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Dapperman.
That totally wants to get me on, and I don't know if we have time.
Now you've done it.
Yeah. Well, it totally makes me think of me and Paul used to have this thing. I don't know if I still, I think I still have an element of this, but we try not to, we try to have low expectations for like the movies we're going to see so that we aren't disappointed. But I don't know if that's always, I think that can be okay for movies, but I don't think you necessarily want to apply that to all of life, to just, I'm just going to expect things to be bad all the time. I don't think that's quite the way to take things. And I used to take things that way. So I've grown. I've become more of a tree now.
I'm going to flat out say that if you walk in a spirit of negativity all the time, and you're always looking at things and going, it's going to suck, you're going to look for a reason for it to be sucky.
But if I'm negative, won't I attract positivity because opposites attract?
And Big Buddha says that
What?
He says that peace begins when expectations end. So Zen.
Wow.
Wait, when did this become Buddhism?
Namaste.
I mean, I have the entire manga
Goddess.
series of Buddha back here.
Is it?
You know what I'm
Namaste,
saying?
a
There
Hindu
is some wisdom in that. You know, if you're always expecting, it's dangerous to hope in places like these. You know, there are certain circumstances where if you're always, oh boy, how do I say this without going off the rails? I think there's a time and a place for everything.
Off the rails.
There's a time and a place to have expectations, and then there's a time and a place to lower those expectations.
Ecclesiastes says there's a time to weep and there's a time to have rejoicing. Yeah, there's a time and place for everything. But if you're constant, and this is what we talked about earlier with some stuff, but really boils down to balance. If you are constantly in a state of pessimism, always in a state of looking at things in a negative light, that will eventually eat you away and become part of who you are.
Absolutely.
And there's a balance of things. We have to learn to be looking for good things. We have to learn to speak life in the situations, even when it's a terrible, crappy situation. We have to learn to balance these things out so we can walk in what God actually has for us.
Absolutely.
Maybe God wants to use you to help better the situation, but you can't because you're stuck in your self-pity and wallowing.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
We know you're joking, Dapper.
But there are people I struggle with it sometimes. So
Yeah.
I'm more preaching to myself, I guess.
Oh, I get it. There's days where I'm just like, everything sucks and we're all gonna burn, and I have to like correct myself, going, no, stop, Dallas. Look,
Yeah.
see things differently. Step back.
Enoch
and
made
realize
it out. I can too.
So let me get through some of these more. Let's see. Dale says, if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't have been a part of this. How little of it I'm a part of. Totally, Dale. Yeah, I think God draws people here that he draws people to the places I think he wants them to be, for sure. We don't have to listen, but I think he certainly makes the soil for that to happen.
Like
Really good
Rushmore.
convo. What was that? Like
the Rushmore,
yeah.
they're here.
Yeah, exactly. LJ says, really good convo in the short time I've been here. Thank you, LJ. Rushmore says, thankful to have found you guys and thankful to have a platform to not only share my friends and fandom, but our faith and love of Jesus and people. Amen. This convo took a hard left, right? You know what? Hard lefts, guys. Maybe next time we could talk this forest of trees. Every tree is curved to the north. It grows up a little bit and it curves to the north. No one knows why this happens. This is an actual place on planet Earth. It's ridiculous. I don't know what, like, how does this happen? How does this happen? It's a mystery, one of God's mysteries. But just something to be aware
Somebody
of.
obviously reversed the polarity
Of the trees.
Yes.
Yeah. I think someone changed their timeline.
Okay,
They're a victim of multimodal reflection sorting.
trust in the Lord. Ashley says, trust in the Lord and let him lead you. Your feelings are fleeting and have no place to lead your life. Amen, Ashley.
I love Dale's last
Deverman's-
comment.
Okay, I'm getting there. I'm joking, as you guys should know me. Don't touch positive with negative. Oh, okay. Thank you, Deborah. Rushmore says, Dallas, so true. I am an optimist in the midst of pessimism. Big Booty says, what, Dale? Big Booty?
Because when Paul would say
the Big
Buddha,
Buddha. Oh.
he got stretched out the word boot.
Okay. I love
What's
this.
that
Is
about?
this
Canadian.
going to be something y'all do regularly, says LJ? Yeah, our plan is to do this every month, Culture Box Conversations. We're going to ideally have different people from Culture Box. We have still, like, the Sam Brave guys aren't here. Also, I think, and like Jacob from the Cellcast isn't here. Celeste from Geek Devotions isn't here.
I may have
Nathan
accidentally
James,
forgot to tell Jacob.
Nathan James Norman from Untold Podcast isn't here. So we want to have some of the same people, some new people, filtering in every month we do these. But the point is, we're going to cover stories. We're going to cover the topics of story, comedy, and geekery, and that's what we did tonight. We covered the Indiana Jones TV series that's in development. We covered our memes for our comedy memes. Are they like copyright, or can you charge people royalties for them? And then we just finished up this conversation about The Last of Us and video games and movies and what our expectations for them are. Doberman says, however, in the serious note, if it wasn't for RP, I wouldn't be part of this or been part of the Bombshell podcast. It all started in my 4-hour drive to Apollo Beach to visit my grandparents. That's crazy.
I blame
And
your
like-
grandparents then.
Yes, thank you, grandparents. Absolutely. LJ says, we're going to try catch these when they happen. Awesome. Yeah. You'll have to just, I think we'll all post to our socials when the next one's happening. We don't have one planned. It's not, we don't have like this time at this date, but we'll definitely
Admittedly, this one was the grand experiment.
Yes, the grand experiment. I'm glad people seem to interact. I feel like we had a good conversation, guys. Let's see. I'll give each of you one final word before we close out for tonight. Let's start with Drew. What's one last thing you want to say about tonight's conversation, about someone else, and where can people find the Cellcast?
You should quit trying to shoehorn your own messages into stuff that's not yours.
I like it.
And you can find the Cellcast podcast at thecellcast.podbean.com, where we review animated movies and television shows. And yeah, come join us there. We'll be recording this coming Friday on the Polar Express, because it is Christmas time.
Cool. Nice.
Just saw that
That's-
last night.
You'll get to hear us talk about a movie with such huge uncanny valley you could found an entire town in.
Yeah.
Paul.
I am PaulJPowers.com, and I'm going to try to shoehorn PaulJPowers.com and everything I'm involved in because that's my content.
And that's where people can find you also.
Yes.
PaulJPowers.com. All right, Dallas.
Yeah, my takeaway is don't shoehorn things don't need to be into things, but also don't try to shoehorn pessimism and false humility, and just be a decent human being towards each other, and it'll be okay in the end. Do things with excellence. That being said, you can find me at geekdevotions.com, where you can access all of our devotions, the 4 or 5 different podcasts we have, and connect with all my team also.
Awesome. For me, I'll say I would love to see stories come back to the way they were. I would love to see that happen in my lifetime. It'd be fantastic, whether it's TV, movies, video games. But they were great. They can be fantastic again. And shoe horns are great for getting your feet into shoes. But I'm Francisco. You can catch me at the Retro Rewind Podcast, me and Paul at RetroRewindPodcast.com, where we review movies and games that are 15 years or older. Thank you guys so much for being part of Culture Box Conversation. For you all here in chat, we appreciate you all. And until next time, guys, let's keep it boxed up. Not with that.
I'd say that's pretty much a wrap. Yep. Cowabunga?
Cowabunga.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cowabunga.